Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you are. Great to have you aboard. Looks like we've got folks joining in. That's fantastic. Do me a favor, let me know that you can see and hear me okay. All of my little indicators are going pop, pop, pop and looking good. But you know what? You don't always trust the indicators. So thank you, Jeremy and Timothy. Looks like we are good to go. Okay. So hey, we get to continue our discussion of kind of the problems of capitalism today, but then we get to start talking about some solutions. Now, remember, just as kind of a review, hey Joseph, great to have you with us. Um, all through the semester, we've been slowly picking up some of the principles of capitalism. So we've had profit motive and ownership of private capital, free market, laissez faire, invisible hand, things like that. And we saw it all come together, and it's pretty awesome until it's not. And a few folks have shown us some of the problems of capitalism. Of course, we had Karl Marx show us the problems in capitalism, but who cares about Karl Marx? He's a communist socialist psychopath, right? Well, no. We also had Adam Smith, the founding father of modern economics, explain the problems of capitalism. And so there's no doubt there are issues. And of course, we then got to explore some of these with Mike Lefebvre. Mike Lefebvre, a modern day example of the worker kind of stuck in this capitalist world. So we're going to explore that a little bit more, but then we are going to talk about solutions. Okay. There are solutions. All right. So that's what we get to do. Aaron, Mario, looks like you're with us. Fantastic. All right. So let's come on over here. We're going to talk about the relationship between labor and capital. And yeah, this time it's personal, right? Labor and capital meaning the employees and the employers, those who provide the labor and those who provide the capital. So right now, we're all laborers, right? But, we work for those who have capital, who have the factories, who have the businesses, who have the buildings, who have the investments, who have all that. And this relationship has always been strained, okay? It's just the natural state of the world, right? Although that's dogmatic for me to say that, so we have to challenge it, right? Well, we're going to see today how it is in fact strained, but then we're going to see some folks come up with some pretty awesome solutions. So to do this, we are going to start with an excerpt from Lady Chatterley's Lover. This is the one that I said, please read this. It's really interesting. So, I forget her name. We have Lady Chatterley. I forget her name right off. If somebody remembers her name, do me a favor, pop it in the comments there. She's talking with her husband, Clifford. I do remember Clifford. Now, you remember from the reading, Clifford owns a mine, and he has lots and lots of employees, miners, who work for him. And Lady Chatterley is really concerned about the plight of the miners, how they're treated, their working conditions, their living conditions, both in the immediate and the long term. Connie, thank you guys. Connie, you're right. So Connie's really concerned about this. And Clifford, he is like really like, oh, silly woman. You have no idea what you're talking about. This is the way it is. This is the way God meant it to be. This is the way the system works. And the system is, irrefutably true. He is very dogmatic about his view of the system. And he feels, that everything's working exactly the way it should, even though these people are under really, really harsh conditions, right? So that's what we're going to explore. What we're going to do is just talk about a lot of the quotes that both Connie and Clifford bring up and kind of explore these. So with that, remember, we've talked about this before, but I really want to drive it home again. What is the most important thing to have to be successful in a capitalistic, economic system? Well, capital. That's why it's called capitalism. So those with the capital, those with the money, those with the resources, those with the land, those with, investment, they hold the power. If you do not have capital, you do not have money, you do not have resources, you do not have land, you do not have investment, you do not hold power. You just don't. Okay? So that's why, and we talked about this before with David Potter, that's why the American capitalism, the American brand of capitalism, is a little bit different because we esteem democracy and equal opportunity above sort of the absolute rigors of capitalism. And so we have a lot of mechanisms in place today that try to make, that try to increase access to capital for everyone. Access to capital. K through 12 education provided, that's access to capital. 60% of your tuition right now is subsidized, access to capital. Able to get, inexpensive loans. And yeah, the interest rate right now, pretty darn low. Access to capital. Able to buy a home and able to buy a car and able to fund education and able to, get business loans. All of these things are access to capital. And so we've tried to make sure that our system provides for that. But back in the day of Clifford and Connie, no. This was strict laissez-faire. Wherever you were born is the way you were. Okay, so bear that in mind as we go forward here. All right, so one of the things that comes up oftentimes when we talk about things like, well, K through 12 is paid through property taxes. And gee, if I don't have kids, why should my property taxes go to, paying for some other person's kids' education? Now, we discussed this, and you know the answer. Society, the country, the community as a whole benefits from an educated, workforce and citizenry, right? So we want an educated workforce and citizenry, and it is in everybody's best interest that we have this. And since land is a form of capital, we think, we need to make sure that those who own land, who own capital, help pay for this, educated citizenry. What about people that pay taxes for public schools and then put their kids in private school? You know what? That's an option. You're totally free to do that. You're absolutely free to do that. Your choice, right? Absolutely your choice. What's even more interesting, I think, is this new move toward the charter schools. The charter schools are private schools funded through taxpayer dollars, right? Through funds there. All of this brings about competition, which means Alta High, which is just down the street from me, where a lot of my kids went to high school. Alta High is building up strong. They're building new facilities and so forth. Private schools, charter schools, public schools, because we have these, we have competition in the market, which means everybody needs to up their game. All right. So, Jeremy, I'm not going to get in a debate right now about whether or not this is appropriate. This is simply an example of access to capital. Well, whenever access to capital and so forth comes up, what we often hear is the argument against redistribution of wealth. Okay? So when we talk about redistribution of wealth, what we talk about is, okay, the wealthy have a ton of money and the poor have very little money, okay? And actually, yeah, just something to think about, I agree. And furthermore, we've got real world examples and contributors and awesome comments. So thank you. Okay, so we have the rich who have a lot of money, the poor who have very little money. The poor need services, the rich don't need the services. So what we're going to do is we tax the rich so that we can provide services for the poor. That is redistribution of wealth. And the argument is whether or not that is appropriate or effective. Okay, so reading from Clifford here, he says, the point is not take all thou hast and give it to the poor, but to use all thou hast to encourage the industry and give work to the poor. It's the only way to feed all the mouths and clothe all the bodies. Giving away all that we have to the poor spells starvation for the poor just as much as for us. Okay? Now, we're going to delve into this, all right, but let me just kind of put this in basic English from the point of view of Clifford. Clifford says, listen. I have money, sure. I have capital. And I have a couple of choices, I suppose. I can take this capital and create jobs. And in creating jobs, these people can feed themselves. Or I can just take all my money and give it to them. All right? And in which case, they're going to starve because they'll eat up all the money and then they won't have a job. And so they're going to starve. And then I'm going to starve because I no longer have capital and I can't feed myself. So obviously, the solution is to take this capital and create jobs. Now, so let's see. Aaron says, I never got hired for a job from someone on welfare. It was always from somebody with capital needing work done. Exactly. Okay. But now let's explore this. What we're looking at is as though there are only two options, right? The only two options, and by the way, that is another contributor and awesome comments, okay? Let's see. The only two options that this statement says is, well, I can either use the capital to create jobs or I can give it all away, all right? Well, here's the thing, though. What quality of jobs are they? And are they jobs that are going to help these people build wealth? Because that's what we want to do. Remember, that's the American brand of capitalism, is we want everybody's standard of living to go up and to build wealth. Now, in Clifford's case, now don't worry, we're going to move on from Clifford eventually, but right now we're going to rake him over the coals. In Clifford's case, no, his jobs were not allowing them to build wealth. They were keeping them just hungry enough that they had no way to get out. But I want to explore one of the things he says. And wrong button. Let's do this button. Giving away we all have to the poor spells starvation for the poor. Okay? Now, I don't want to get fixated on the word all. All right? Yeah, okay, if you gave away all, you'd be screwed. I get that, all right? But let's explore this idea that redistribution of wealth, whether or not it can be good for those in need or can be detrimental for those in need, all right? I'm just going to look for comments on either side. And you can just explore from either side. You can take the position that redistributing some of the wealth to the poor actually helps build, and that's the right thing to do, versus no. Anything you give to the poor, they're just going to eat it, drink it, shoot it up their veins, and then they're hungry again. You haven't solved any problem. Go ahead and explore any side you wish, and then we'll go ahead and talk through them, okay? So in the meantime, I'm going to give you guys some puppy cam. Okay, fantastic. Let's come back to this. By the way, I know that we are now easily at 4 contributors, and I know for a fact that we have hit 10 awesome comments. No doubt about that in my mind. So we've hit our first 10 easily. Oh, and we have Mason with us as well. So I'm going to go ahead and give us another contributor. Okay. So let's explore some of these. Oh, thank you, Timothy. Yes. 8, 47, 10. Very good. All right. So Jeremy brought up aid to other countries from the U.S. government and so forth. I'm going to give that a totally real world example because it is a real world example, but that's a little too distant from me. And I cannot verify in terms of, well, how do we measure success? What countries are we talking about? How much have we given? I want to bring this down a little bit more personal, immediate to our communities, because that way we can kind of gauge some things. But it's a great real world example. Timothy, I think that giving away to poor is necessary. Helping those unfortunate is fundamental in any society. So Timothy is taking kind of a moralistic approach to this. It's just what you do. It's just how you help each other. We are a community species and we should help each other. Now, I do not disagree. In fact, I emphatically agree. However, there has to be more in capitalism to the moralistic side, okay? If we're looking at the tenets of capitalism, it doesn't really account for that. Now, Timothy, I want to reiterate, I agree, I emphatically agree, but there's more to it that we can explore. Aaron, it's give a man a fish, concept. Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, but the guy come up with the fishing net and the boat and so forth. I've always thought it was interesting. So I want you to explore this for a moment. Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. You gave him a fish. That is your redistribution of wealth. You gave him a fish. You have a fish. You redistributed that wealth to the man. He fed himself for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. However, you have still redistributed your wealth. You've redistributed your wealth of time because it takes time to teach him to fish. You've redistributed your expertise because you had to spend time developing that expertise. And so really, teaching somebody to do it is still a form of redistribution of wealth. The very fact that K through 12 was paid for by the state and that your college education is subsidized is a form of redistribution of wealth, but it's an investment in the person because then we get to create great fishermen. And you guys are going to go off and become great fishermen. So it's interesting that we never really look at teaching somebody as charity, and yet it's a lot easier to give a person a damn fish than it is to teach them to. So it takes a greater sense of charity, but it's an investment. Timothy, giving out is noble, right? Yeah, absolutely. If you're forced, it's criminal. I agree. All right. Let's see. The fishing example is an argument in favor of some form of redistribution. Yeah, I believe on both sides. Mason, my feeling on the topic is how always we are redistributing wealth to the poor, create practical programs that actually help them in need. Agreed, but it's still redistribution because those practical programs cost money, right? So if I'm going to put in place training programs, if I'm going to put in place halfway housing programs, if I'm going to put in place food programs and so forth, get you on your feet, all that stuff costs money. It's still, but it has the air of investment, and it should, right? Ryan, laid off from the oil rigs. I was used to working 12-hour days, and then after being laid off for a long time, I felt I could hardly work again. Yeah, sometimes you actually just really need the help. Jason, oh, by the way, we've got more contributors, right? Excellent. We got Ryan and Jason. It's kind of like giving a man a fish, feed him or teach him. Yeah, absolutely. Giving too much unemployment made me lazy. Interesting, right? And that's been an issue with this COVID thing where we increased the amount of unemployment. And some people said, I can make more money, sitting around at home than I can working, right? That's a serious risk and concern. But there's a difference between just plain handing you a check versus handing you a pass to a educational program, right? Jeremy, Timothy, just think, you pay federal taxes and state taxes on your wages, then you pay taxes to your city and taxes to your food and work. So yeah, we're taxed over and over. That's no revelation. It is a real world example, right? But yeah, tax is a constant. Let's see, spend more, let's see, Aaron, we all okay. Aaron, thank you. This is where I wanted to end this. We are all recipients of redistribution of wealth by being college students. You're all me too. We are all recipients of redistribution of wealth. Let me explain. College, okay, that's an easy one. By the way, you were poor as you know what for the first 18 years of your life. First 18 years of your life, you were a worthless, you produced no wealth, you produced no resources for the family. You were a worthless kid that was just a money hole that had to be filled. And your parents redistributed a ton of their wealth to raise you up because you were poor as crap and couldn't take care of yourself. But you're an investment. You're an investment. Okay. All right. So what about that? Well, I'm using this cool internet. I pay for it, sure, but you know what? It's been paid for through a ton of sources. I drive on roads that are paid for by taxes and so forth. I use water systems. I use electricity. There are tons and tons and tons of things that I benefit from because the state has decided to tax the hell out of us, as Jeremy points out, but then redistribute that wealth so that everybody has equal access to things like roads and sewage and garbage collection and lighting and so on and so forth. If we paid for only what we used and nobody else helped pay for it, we couldn't even put in the infrastructure. The infrastructure alone was a massive redistribution of wealth. Take the highway system, for example. The highway system, guys, is relatively new. I mean, yeah, I'm showing my age, but it was a massive, massive undertaking. Our military is a huge redistribution of wealth because military doesn't really make that much money, although the contractors and so forth do, right? So the point I'm trying to make is, New Deal projects, great example. So I'm getting behind here, so I'm going to go ahead and pull out a couple. Ryan, multiple parties will deduct some expenses. Yes. Financial. Oh, past lecture. Hey, way to go, Jeremy. Financial week courses. So here's the thing. We all benefit from an incredible wealthy country. Don't think for a moment that you're paying for it. I mean, you're contributing to it, to be sure. But it's really just something we've done as a collective. And as a result, we've all been able to benefit. Now, I want to be really clear. Do I think that in all cases, a redistribution of wealth is the way to go and that we should just hand the person a fish? No, 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 no. No. All right. I'm all about investment. You know, I'm sitting here talking about all the ways that we benefit from redistribution of wealth, but it's an investment in us, and everybody on this line watching this video is embracing it as an investment, bettering yourself to be a stronger contributor to the community in the future. But the very fact that we're talking about contributor to the community means we have to all pool our resources at some level. Pooling our resources makes us able to do things that we could not do otherwise. We're a community creature. We need each other. We need each other's resources. So, okay, enough about that. Let's keep going here because we've got more, because this is good stuff. One of the things that Clifford says is, you know, Connie says, hey, listen, you make them work for you and they live their life in your coal mine. And he says, not at all. Every beetle finds its own food. Not one man is forced to work for me. Well, let's talk about that. Are they forced to work with? Is there a gun to their head and somebody is forced to work? Well, now, by the way, back then, organizing was illegal. And if you did a work stoppage and went on strike, there would be a gun put to your head and you would be ordered to go back to work. But that's not, let's not get into that. There's no gun put to their head. They're not forced to work. However, access to opportunity, access to capital. They have no access to capital. They're living hand to mouth. They have no mobility. There are no other jobs in that town than the coal mine. It is a coal mining town. They do not have skills beyond their labor, right? They lift stuff, right? So, no, they're not forced to work, but they have zero options. Zero options. Now, in economics and so forth, and in work, we call this exploitation of need. They have a need. They need to eat. They need to live. And you are exploiting that need by paying them a bare minimum, knowing darn well that they have no options. This is how labor in other countries is often done, child labor and so forth, that we have benefited from. If you take my international business class sometime, we talk about that for a week. So exploitation of need is almost analogous to force. So Ryan said, if they're gun to their head and you could die, you don't work and you can't afford to live, you will die. Yeah, exploitation of need. Exactly, Ryan. Aaron, change the miners from mining supplies, give them an advance on their paycheck and so on. By the way, the company store. Okay, finally, somebody is either old or geeky enough to know the song, I Owe My Soul to the Company Store. The way it would work back then is you could not afford to live. And so you would go in debt to the company store to get food and so forth. Well, the mining company owned the company store, ergo that's why it's called the company store. So furthermore, you owed a ton of money to the company store just so you could live. So you have to keep working to live, but also to pay off your debt to the company store. But you can't afford to do both. So you get in more debt to the company store. Ergo the song, I Owe My Soul to the Company Store, right? So there was no way to get out. No way to get out. If any of you have ever thought, I can't leave this job because of my debt, you know what that feels like. Okay. Let's see. Ditto Ryan. Yeah. I've seen the company store in action in jobs I've had early in my, yes. Okay. Real world examples, seeing the company store in action. Yeah, today it's, yeah, totally. Um, Seems like a concept that still occurs in human trafficking. Yes, you kind of, I mean, let's talk about it. Human trafficking, absolutely. They bring you across, right? And but then you got to work for them for 7 years, right? That's illegal. But now, if you get your tuition paid by a company and your company says you have to, after you get your degree, you have to work for us for 2 years, okay? And if you don't stick around for 2 years, you need to pay us back your tuition. Well, now you owe that to the company. So the company has power and leverage. You have fewer options. These are tiny, kind of first world examples of this problem. Back in this day, it was massive. Okay. Um, I was charged room and board on my first crab fishing job on the ship, and you only got paid a percentage of the catch after the fact. Yes, great, great real world example. Phenomenal. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to guess that we've had another contributor. I mean, why not just throw that in, right? Okay, very good. All right. Now, Clifford isn't seeing this. And furthermore, okay, hang on. Hayden says, Lon, the company store example makes me think of my history class this semester, talking about the Industrial Revolution in factories. If I need to miss work, yes, gosh, yes. Reference to past lectures, very good. And a support from Aaron. Exactly. You're getting it. Okay. You guys are good. All right, so let's keep going. Clifford isn't phased at all. Connie is freaking out, but Clifford isn't phased at all. And Clifford says, listen. There's an absolute gulf between the ruling and the serving classes. I think this is interesting because let's think about a couple of the words he uses. Absolute. Absolute means you can't change it. It is perpetual. It is prima facie, on the face, a absolute gulf. And golf is like golf, right? I mean, Jeremy, he's been around the world. He's probably passed through who knows how many gulfs, right? But gulfs are great, big, huge, wide bodies of water that separate two regions, right? And to pass through a gulf is, really tricky, right? So he's saying there is an absolute gulf between these two. So to Clifford, the idea of trying to kind of bring the two together is a fool's errand. By the way, we're going to talk about how to bring the two together here pretty soon. Jeremy, on sea and air, no doubt, man. Hey, you'll have to tell, oh gosh, I don't know. No, you weren't Navy. You know, when you pass the meridian or the equator or something, you go through Neptune's thing. Yeah, my father-in-law was Navy. All right. Okay, let's keep going. We're going to unpack this. I'm going to read the statement, but then we're going to break it down. Yes, Navy. We're going to break it down a little bit. The masses are unalterable. They're just dirt. I mean, they're unalterable. It is one of the momentous facts of social science. Social science says the masses are unalterable. Panem and circenses, bread and circuses. We'll talk about that. Only today, education is one of the bad substitutes for circuses. What is wrong today is that we've made a profound hash of the circuses part of the program and poisoned our masses with a little education. Okay, let's pray. Shell back. Yes, let's play with this. Okay, bread and circuses. Bread and circuses is reference to kind of the cynical formula back in the days of the Romans that, listen, to control the masses, all you need to do is make sure they're fed and you give them entertainment. If they have food and entertainment, they'll leave you alone. The masses are pretty simple that way. And in fact, if the entertainment can be like blood boiling and get them going and bloodthirsty and seeing red, then they're really going to invest themselves in the entertainment, and they're not going to bother with understanding policy or how this works or anything like that. Just keep them entertained, keep them fed, they'll be fine. Gee, you think this is done today? Oh, yeah. Right? Pro sports? Yeah. Hunger Games? Yeah. Now, I maintain, guys, and this is my take, okay? I maintain that this reeks of social media, okay? We get our blood boiling through. I'm gonna slam on this keyboard and tell you what for, and we get in our little echo chambers and we make sure that everybody around us agrees with us, and that we really create these cohorts of extreme view, and it's a battle, right? We think we're being politically active when we do that. We think we're being informed citizenry. We're not. We're not. We are in blood sport. And so while real decisions are made and real politics takes place and real policy is made, we're over here on the blood sport side. And since we have plenty of food, we have plenty of food in this country, it allows the powers to let us go over in the corner and just murder each other, and the powers just sit back and have lunch. That's my cynical take. It can be totally broken down, all right? Just all part of the circuses. That's what I think. Yes, totally. Okay, next thing. Poisoning the masses with a little education. I love this. Okay, there's another quote by Alexander Pope here. Let's see, let me get my highlighter. A little learning is a dangerous thing. Okay, so remember, Clifford says we've messed up the circuses part by giving them an education. He says it was better when we just gave them blood sport, because then they just got it all out, right? But now we're giving them education, and we've poisoned our masses with a little education. So this is what we're going to do for our next comment, right? How is giving somebody an education poisoning the masses in Clifford's view? What do you think there? So with that in mind, let's go back to our puppies. Okay, let's come back and take a look. All right. So Ryan says, I think they're trying to say something along the lines of ignorance is bliss. The less we know about the world, the better off we are. Well, I would say the better off leadership and power is, right? If we are ignorant and we're blissfully unaware and we're ignorant of everything going around, then we don't challenge authority. We don't challenge power. We don't realize that, you know what? We're getting the shaft here because we're ignorant, and ignorance is bliss. I like it. Aaron, a little education sparks people to question the status quo. This leads to dissatisfaction, which leads to action. And the bourgeoisie don't like action from the proletariat. Oh, Aaron, way to channel the Marxism, right? Yeah, totally. Is if we are blissfully unaware and ignorant of everything we're going on, and we start to become educated and we start to question why things are the way they are, question leads to action, which leads to change, which means, yeah, the proletariat brings it down on the bourgeoisie. Absolutely. Jeremy, when you give people factual data it changes the narrative from the presumed understanding to earlier changing mind and thinking, or continuing to be arrogant. Facts don't change your feelings, right? Yeah, you know what? I like this. It's interesting because, you can have feelings about something, but then when you look at the facts, and that's what this class is all about, then you have this dilemma, right? I feel one way, but the facts say something else. Maybe the facts support my feelings, maybe they don't. Do I change the way I feel about something based on the facts that I see? And this is a constant struggle, right? Which distracts people from the work. It makes them question. It makes them ask, why are things the way they are? Yeah, it messes up the circuses. Hayden, like that, Ryan. Lon, I'm pretty sure you said it in the first week of class. They want us to be fat, happy, and distracted. When we start learning, we start figuring out how screwed the system is. So, yeah, absolutely. And that is a big fat. I'm going to give that 2 references to past lectures, because I believe that. I believe that power wants you to be distracted, and they want to provide the circuses. They want you to care about the Kardashians. They want you to care about, did the tiger's wife kill him or not? Because that is a lot less important to the power than, hang on, why are things the way they are? Explain to me why the electoral system is the way it should be, and that, what? You see, they don't want you to ask those things. Okay. Joseph, if I give you my house, my money, and my possessions, fine, you have enough for months. Yeah, start. Reference to the previous discussion. Yes. And that's a new contributor as well. Jeremy's inner Ben Shapiro is coming. Hey, you know what? Ben Shapiro has some points, guys. By the way, I voted. I voted and, took my ballot in and so forth. I voted for Democrats, I voted for Republicans, and I voted for independents. They are all represented on my ballot. All the sides have some really, really good points. It's when you start to think that one side is of the devil and the other side can do no wrong that you've thrown critical thinking out of the building. So, one of the things they're talking about, the new justice, she was a protege of Antonin Scalia. Antonin Scalia, of course, being really, really, really conservative, but he was also really, really, really smart. And you know what? I don't mind smart people. Just because they disagree with me or I disagree with them doesn't mean that I don't want smart people helping to run the country. Vote early, vote often. Absolutely, right? That's the grand saying. I love it. Okay, great job, guys. So, I'm gonna, well, I'm gonna do this one last thing, and then we gotta move on to how to fix this, right? I love this quote from Connie. I can curl up at night with this quote like it was a pillow. Their lives are industrialized and hopeless, and so are ours. Industrialized means part of a heartless and soulless system, a cog in a relentless machine. Hopeless, desperate, and without hope for a better tomorrow. Now, when I think of this quote, I'm going to come over to this one, and I'm going to come over here, and we're going to hit play on this. There's a famous movie. It's a really, really, really good movie from like 1927 called Metropolis, a German movie, Metropolis. And I'm not going to explain the whole plot of the story, but this kid right here, he's the son of the owner of this factory that we're in. And he comes in and he looks at this kid is like Connie. So this guy is like Connie, and his father would be like Clifford. And he walks in and sees all these people working on the machines, and they're even moving in sync. They are simply cogs in the machine. And when I think of the idea that their lives are industrialized and hopeless, and so are ours, I think about this because his vision here, he starts to see these people offered up in sacrifice to the gods of industry, right? The machine becomes this, never sated god that just gobbles up people, but that's necessary because the wheels of industry have to constantly grind. And so I just think it's an amazing idea. That's just me getting geeky. Okay, we'll come on, go away. Let's pull the presentation back up. Hang on, where are you? Come on, presentation. There you are. Okay. So, just me getting a little geeky there. Ultimately, Clifford felt that everybody should stay in their place. Oh, it's such a good movie. And it's free online. You can go to internetarchive.org and you can watch the movie. It's just amazing. And the special effects for 1927, they're incredible. Okay, stop geeking out. He just says everybody needs to stay in their place. Step into your place, stay in your lane, keep the forms of life intact. Don't ask questions, don't buck the system, just do what you're told and everything will be fine. Okay? Well, Jean-Paul Sartre, a famous existentialist philosopher, he says, every existing thing is born without reason, prolongs itself out of weakness, and dies by chance. It just is what it is. You're born, you eat, you work, you're consumed, you die. Okay, well, it doesn't have to be like this. All right, we just totally crapped all over capitalism in the last couple of weeks, right? But no, there are solutions. And I really like how these solutions start to come into play. Now we're shifting the whole lecture series over to the solution side. Andrew Carnegie. You guys know Andrew Carnegie, probably from a last class. Tell me what last class you explored Carnegie in, and we can get some references to past lectures going. Carnegie was one of the original robber barons back when we were monopolies and so forth. He was a capitalist through and through. He made tons of money. He was just one of the originals in American industry before we broke up the monopolies, antitrust, and so forth. And yeah, robber barons, right? Ryan, I know him from the book Think Rich and Grow Rich. Yeah, American history. Yes, totally, right? He also has Carnegie Hall. He gave a lot to charity and so forth. But here's the point I want to make, and I really want you to embrace this. He is interested in, railroads and steel. Yes, Jeremy. Bingo. Bingo. This man is interested in one thing and one thing only: making money. Okay? He's not, very good, Hayden. He is not interested in morality. He's not interested in ethics. He's interested in one thing and one thing only, and that's making money. Well, then he should be a heartless SOB like Clifford, right? No, because he's smart. He knows what it takes to make money. And so watch, he's about to offer some solutions to the problems of capitalism in the endeavor to make more money. Watch this. I find it fascinating. Okay. He says, listen, we need industrial peace. That's a phrase he uses in the reading. We need industrial peace, right? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to explore the idea of why is industrial peace so important. Now, by the way, this is the strike of 1934, back when striking was illegal. And yeah, they'd bring out the guys with the clubs and the irons and so forth, and they would beat the strikers and force them to go back to work and so forth. Because there's an absolute gulf between the ruling and serving class, and you got to know your place and get back to work. Andrew Carnegie said, no. This isn't going to work. This is not going to work. So he said, listen, anytime there is not industrial peace, that means we are not producing. And if we're not producing, we're not making money. So to him, and it's going to be one of these 4 steps, so I'll just give you a teaser. To him, the grand sin is to stop production. Do whatever it takes to keep production going. Does that mean bigger billy clubs? Does that mean bigger guns? Does that mean, rolling over the strikers with bigger horses? No. Watch. This is what he says. He says, okay, first thing, compensation should be based on a sliding scale in proportion to prices received. Okay. What does that mean? Well, in his day, in his language, in his time, what that meant is if demand for my product goes up and I can raise my prices, I should pay my employees more. The percentage of their pay should be aligned with the price that I can charge for my product. That way, they have a vested interest in making sure that the product is good and we can charge well for it, so on and so forth. This was radical. I mean, just essentially bonus. Okay, Jeremy, bingo. This, and I'm going to put that as a real world example, this is essentially profit sharing. It's profit sharing, bonus-based profit sharing. Now, I'll give you an example. When I worked for Intel, and they were very, very transparent about this, and we didn't mind, and I'll tell you why. We were paid below market, meaning the salary that I received, my annual salary, was slightly less than what other tech companies would pay. Well, screw that, right? I'm going to go work for another tech company. Hell no. Because Intel's profit sharing was huge. The bonuses that we would get based on the profits, we did really well. We did really well. And furthermore, speaking for myself and those that I worked with, we were highly motivated to make sure that profits were maximized because we would make more money. So that's what Carnegie is talking about here. If you make more money, you should pay more money because then they're going to be invested. Aaron says it's the concept of a boss saying to employees, you know, if I do good, you do good. Yeah, totally. Right? Okay. Let's see. Benefits can also be worth more than the wage increase in another kind. Oh, Jeremy, yes, they totally were, man. You're on the nose. Our bonuses and our stock options were worth more money than sometimes even our salary in a good year. It was amazing. Okay, that's number one. Now, guys, you and I know this. You're like, oh, this is profit sharing, right? Yeah, to us, this is normal. Back then, this was radical stuff, man. Financial marketing classes semester. Yes, very good. Reference the past lecture. All right, let's keep going. Proper organization led by the best managers that confer freely with employees. Okay, let me tell you how managers were selected back then. It had to be a white male related to the owner. Those were the criteria. If you're white, male, and you're the son, son-in-law, nephew, cousin, it was nepotism through and through. You weren't made a manager because you were an awesome manager. You were made a manager because of your DNA. It was nepotism, which means they sucked. The managers sucked. All they did was bring in bigger whips and bigger billy clubs. They didn't know how to manage because they were just rich, snot-nosed kids, right? Well, Carnegie says, we need real managers who understand how to manage and furthermore, confer freely with employees, talk with employees, discuss with employees, plan with employees. This was radical, people. You and I get this today because we're like, that's standard. What's the big deal? Back then, that was big stuff. A couple of comments. Ryan, yep, in the oil rigs, we got downhole bonuses if we hit gas by the time we should have. Safety bonuses if not got hurt, if no one got hurt, right? Yeah, right. Yeah, hookup. Yeah, the hookup. I like it. Yes. You know what, guys? I'm taking us there. You've done all kinds of real world examples. Oh my gosh, folks. We might get 10s all the way. We have never got 10s all the way. Huh, this is cool. Okay, let's see how this goes. All right, let's keep going. All right. Peaceful arbitration. He didn't want strikes. He didn't want lockdowns, lockouts. He wanted to sit down with employees and negotiate. Peaceful arbitration. Because ultimately, this was his holy grail. No interruption of the work. Remember, he's a cold-hearted capitalist. He's not doing this because he's some bleeding heart liberal and he wants to, make good and, he wants to make money. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a bleeding heart liberal, so I get the sentiment. But he's saying, you know what? If my ultimate goal is no interruption of the work, then doing these things helps me and my goal to make money. This is the invisible hand, right? This is the invisible hand saying if you act in your self-interest, everyone will benefit whether you mean to or not. Well, Carnegie's saying my best interest is no interruption of work. What do I need to do to make sure that my best interest is served? I'm going to provide these things. Not because I care about your self-interest, but because I care about mine. And lo and behold, it worked really well. And by the way, as we go on with this lecture series, we're going to see more and more people bringing this into capitalism. Okay? By the way, you'll want to understand, it'll probably be a test question sometime or another, right? What's the difference between a strike and a lockout, right? Yeah, keep the employees happy and therefore producing. Exactly, Aaron. When I worked for Federal Express, they had a philosophy of people, service, profit. And the philosophy was if you're good to your people, they will provide great service. And if they provide great service, then customers will pay for that service and will make profit. Yeah, you get it. So a strike is where employees say, you know what, we're going to stop working. And you, dear capital, factory owner, you're going to lose money because we're going to stop working. Well, now the strikers will lose money as well. But in a strike, the union has done a calculus saying we think we can outlast the business, the company. A lockout is the opposite. That's when the company has done a calculus saying we think we can outlast the union. So the company locks the doors to the factory and says no work for the foreseeable future, which means no pay for the foreseeable future. Go home. Right? So it's really just a game of who can outlast the other. It's war by attrition. And Carnegie's like, are you crazy? First of all, it stops work, it stops production, and it's expensive as hell. Why are we doing this? Just give them some profit sharing, let them be a part of the negotiations with some decent managers, and we're good. It's so obvious to you and me. It wasn't obvious back then, okay? Difference is who initiates the work stoppages? Yes, yeah. And who thinks they can outlast the other, right? Very good. Now, mind you, and we're wrapping up, right? But so let's get, I'd really love to see one more contributor. Somebody who hasn't contributed. Mario, I know you're out. I'd love to see somebody who hasn't contributed because then we can get another one. And then if we can get a reference to a past lecture, I'd love to get 4 10s, guys. I think that's awesome. Okay. Yes. Well, the want for more increases endlessly. Profit motive. You're right. That's a reference to past lectures. I'm taking that, baby. I'm taking that as a reference to past lectures, right? Okay. Now, Carnegie is progressive. Don't get me wrong. He's progressive and he's smart and he's done a lot to help capitalism. But he wasn't totally sold on the idea of employee ownership. Now, today we see employee ownership as a really good way to bring about industrial peace. All right. And so we have stock purchase programs and employee investment. And in some cases like REI and I think it's Winco or something, Winco. Thank you. Yes. Right. Winco. We have companies that are owned by the employees. Carnegie wasn't totally sold on that. Here's the thing. Carnegie said, listen. I want them to be contributors and I want them to be involved. I'm texting from Mario. Stock options. Yes, exactly. So, here's the thing. If all the employees are owners, all the employees will think they can act like owners, and all the employees will think they have a right to make decisions like owners. And first of all, it's too many cooks in the kitchen. Second is, I'm sorry, you might be an owner, but you don't understand the company's strategy. You don't understand the industry as a whole. You don't understand all the economic principles going on. You don't understand the laws, rules, and regulations that affect this industry. We have experts who do all that. But if you're just some schmuck who happens to have a lot of strongly held opinions, and you think that strongly held opinions give you a right to make decisions on behalf of the company, you know what? Carnegie just saw a mess in this. And so he wasn't really willing to make that last leap toward employee ownership, although a lot of companies since have. So we see that a great deal. Okay? So that is, here's the last quote. Shareholders have voting rights, but the board holds the final powers. Yes. And, except in the case, right, Aaron? Guys, look up sometime Carl Icahn. Okay? I think it's Carl Icahn. Hey, Mario! We did it! Would real estate be in that category? Sure, absolutely. And we are at Mega 10 all the way down. Guys, first time ever. You totally rock, right? Here's a quote from, Andrew Carnegie. I shall argue that strong men, conversely, know when to compromise, and that all principles can be compromised to serve a greater principle. And for him, the greater principle is make money. And if you need to make compromises and negotiate to make money, then do it. If you're not willing to do that, you're basically saying you're a weak coward. That's what Andrew Carnegie's saying. If you're strong, you're willing to come to the table and discuss because you're confident in your strength and your ability and your position and so on and so forth. But if you're living life in a bunker and like afraid of the world and you're like, I'm not talking to anybody, that's where he's saying, well, then you're going to lose the greater principle. Okay. Yeah. Hayden, double points for today. You know what, Hayden? I'm going to do a little something special. We've never done all 10s before, and I think that's pretty cool. I think that's really cool. So congratulations, guys. And it makes it a lot more fun for me. I mean, here's the thing, everyone. I'm like in this room. I mean, it looks like this cool studio. I got this background, right? And I've got puppies, right? But every once in a while, it occurs to me that like I'm in a room talking to myself. It's really surreal. And so when I get folks coming in and participating and so forth, I don't feel alone. I feel like I'm not in a room all by myself, talking to myself like I need medication. I'm with you guys. And I really like that and I appreciate it. Okay, so that is kind of the beginning of how we're going to fix capitalism. Now, that said, the next lecture, remember, we are going in the lecture on Thursday. We're going to talk about Man and Machine by Mahatma Gandhi. I told you, you don't necessarily need to read Man and Machine. If you want to scan through that, do. As a matter of fact, if you scan through any part of Man and Machine, find the part where he talks about the Singer sewing machine. Okay? Singer sewing machine. Find the part where Mahatma Gandhi is talking about the Singer sewing machine. Read that part. But definitely watch Humans Need Not Apply. Please please, please watch that video before Thursday. If you watch that video before Thursday and you read the part on the Singer sewing machine in Mana Machine, you're going to be totally set. Totally set. Jeremy says, when you talk to yourself is when you answer yourself that you need to be worried. Oh, yeah. Actually, I might need to be worried. Okay, just so you know, guys, lecture over. But then I'm going to tell a story if you're interested. So, lecture over. We're all set. You're good for Thursday. We're all good. But then I'm going to answer that thing that Jeremy just said. I'm not going to call it a journal. I keep a notebook where I set my goals and my tasks and my to-dos and my milestones. And I often write notes to myself to kind of, think things out, right? Brainstorm with myself, if I will. And so I'll often write a dialogue where Lon says this, but then Lon responds that. And then it's my form of critical thinking. Hey, Lon, you should treat this as a business. Well, no, I have a job. Why do I need to treat it as a business? Because if you treat it like a business, then that will prompt you to make more wise, informed database decisions. Well, there's nothing that says I can't make wise formed. You see what I mean? I write this dialogue to myself. So yeah, Jeremy, I answer my own questions. So maybe I need help. So with that cheery note, everybody have a fantastic rest of the day. I'll stay online to answer any questions you might have. And until then, we'll see you on Thursday. And Jeremy, let's see. Journals are a great way to pour your thoughts, your feelings. Sometimes something's bothering you. Totally agree. That's what I use it for. Totally. All right. Have a great day, and we'll see you. Where am I going? We'll see you all on Thursday. Thanks a lot, guys.